So we need to do a quick review on two systems we already know a lot about, so it shouldn't be too bad. First one is the immune system, and immune system is kind of wrapped up in lymphatic system. They're kind of doing the same stuff, but the big thing is it protects me from these guys over here. One of these gets in, my body says, hey, that's not ours, and it tries to protect me from that foreign invader. Anytime the body recognizes something isn't one of my cells, it's going to kind of turn on all its defenses and its turrets and its walls, and it's going to try to make sure it doesn't get in. Lymphatic system almost looks like a big circulatory system. It's kind of overlaid in the same areas. Sometimes you'll get a cut and you'll kind of have that clear liquid come out. It's lymph fluid. This is a separate highway in a separate tubing system specifically for immune cells. This is what the lymph nodes are connected to, and the spleen is in there as well. When you're sick and you go to the doctor, he always feels your neck and goes, oh yeah, you're something. It's because he's feeling for the lymph nodes right behind your cheek and kind of under your jaw. If you got some kind of infection in your throat, like maybe you got strep or you got some kind of bacterial thing going on back in there, the lymph nodes are actually going to swell with immune cells, almost like they're priming to go fight it. So usually when you have an infection, even if you had an infection down here, you might be able to notice nodes down in your hip crease getting swollen. But the immune system basically has layers. It has a couple that are going to barely activate just to on a daily basis to fight stuff off. You don't want to have a full-blown immune response to everything. When you do, that's actually an autoimmune disease. If your immune system is overactive and it's fighting off stuff constantly, or it's even fighting stuff it shouldn't, that would be something like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, where your body is actually, its immune system is actually harming it. So we got to look at the lines of defense. Line 1 is just kind of the outer layer. So we're going to talk a lot about the skin and the hair and the nails. And I know you're like, well, that's integumentary system. The immune system is so comprehensive that it's going to involve more systems and have more organs, I think, than any other system in the body. So this is going to be skin, hair, nails, oil. This is all that first protective barrier. So hair in your nose, that's actually going to keep stuff from getting in. This is why when you get a cut and you cut through that skin, that first barrier, it's always possible you can have an infection because you've basically blown up the wall that protects your little castle, and stuff can get in easier. So it's important that you put Neosporin on it, you put band-aids on it, all that fun stuff. Now, there's a chance that it can get through this layer, and we get into round 2. When your body senses cell damage, it's going to think, okay, something is killing these cells. So it's going to send a bunch of guys to fight whatever's killing those cells. It could be bacteria, could be virus, we don't know. But we are going to actually have everything get inflamed and activate inflammation. So inflammation is the swelling you get when something's going wrong. Basically the body's pumping all this lymphatic fluid in there, all the arteries and veins are opening up, everything's getting wider, and we're just kind of pushing stuff to that site to fight off whatever's causing the problem. However, again, your body kind of jumps the gun a little bit. Say you just come down here and you roll an ankle. There's obviously no bacteria or virus in there, but you do have some damage that your body says, oh cool, we got to go protect whatever's housing this. So it sends all this inflammation down to your ankle, makes your ankle all poofy, and actually causes a lot more pain because of the inflammation. So we know with our smart brains that we don't need that inflammation. We really don't need a whole lot of it at that moment. So we reduce the inflammation by adding ice. Eventually the swelling goes down and your body kind of realizes, okay, that damage was like instantaneous and it's not bacteria, it's not a virus. And then all that blood and everything will pool. Maybe you have some bruising, but you don't have a crazy inflammatory response after that. Inflammation will cause you a lot of issues. It can cause pressure on arteries, it can cause pressure on veins. So when your body overreacts with inflammation, it's not going to be great. You can reduce inflammation with all kinds of stuff. You can take medicines. A lot of people take fish oil regimens. They work pretty good at eating up inflammation. But you do want to make sure that inflammation happens when you actually need it. You want to make sure you can shuttle all your immune cells there when it's a real deal. And our third line of defense is going to be some of our white blood cells, the B and the T cells. These are going to come in, they're going to eat up, and they're going to kill off bacteria. They will actually take the bacteria or whatever, and they will digest it. They'll kind of engulf them. And then they can break them apart and actually turn them into goop and get rid of the goop. We know that goop as pus. A lot of times you'll have a cut, and then you kind of have it seals up at the top, and then you get this buildup of pus behind it. A lot of that is just gunk that the body's trying to get rid of, some dead bacteria, all the corpses of your enemies kind of shooting out of your body. So when you have pus at a site of a wound, there is an infection somewhere. That means bacteria are getting killed, but that means bacteria are already in there, so we need to make sure that that site stays clean or whatever you do for a cut. And you kind of got two white blood cells kind of work in tag team like some B and some T cells. They kind of work like a sniper rifle duo in the military. You got the one guy with the binoculars or the big scope, you got the one guy with the gun. The better marksman is actually the guy with the scope. He's the one who's going to identify all this stuff, and then the guy with the gun is going to dial it up and then listen to the other guy and shoot. So one of them kind of identifies and targets, and one of them actually kills it. And this is really important for stuff like viruses. So we remember that viruses are lytic and lysogenic. Our body needs to react to these guys because we don't want them to get in and reproduce and go crazy. Even something as simple as one guy getting in can cause thousands upon thousands upon thousands of viruses to get released. So it's important that we catch this dude before he even gets there to inject the fake instructions and start making some more viruses, or worse, bond up to our DNA as a lysogenic virus. The way we do this is vaccines, and I think we've talked about these a little bit. Imagine you walk into the mall and somebody says, hey, everybody with a red shirt is going to punch you in the face. So you are looking for guys with red shirts, and then all of a sudden a pink shirt comes up and you're like, oh, hey, what's up, buddy? And he punches you in the face and you're very upset. It's because the virus changed and evolved over time to go from red to kind of faded pink. So you weren't looking for him. That's why you get a flu shot every year. Maybe the next year's flu shot says, hey, watch out for pink also. So every time the virus changes, you want somebody to alert you of that color shirt. And what it does is it actually helps the cells, the white blood cells that target. It wants you to spot this guy quicker. It wants you to be like, oh, that's the bad guy. Quick, kill him before he gets into the cell. Because we don't want these guys getting in here. Because remember, viruses can cause all kinds of nasty stuff besides just normal sickness. They can actually get in there and cause cancer. They can mess up cells. They can mess up processes. You don't want that to happen. You want to make sure all your organs are functioning. You don't want to have tumors or abnormal cell growth on anything. You don't want any of that. Remember, your body's main goal is to survive and reproduce. That's its entire job. So the immune system is basically covering the survival part, but then we also have to do the reproduce part. So now we can actually get into the reproductive system. I'll wrap this thing up a little bit with endocrine, but they are two separate systems. They just, again, they work so hand in hand that sometimes you'll think of them as doing very, very similar jobs. So reproductive is going to be how you reproduce. First of all, males and females have different hormones and different reproductive systems, obviously. The big hormone for males is testosterone. The big hormone for females is estrogen. These are actually going to flip on our light switches from a previous unit. They're going to activate genes. You have these genes in your body. If you're 11, you probably don't have your facial hair or beard gene activated. When you finally go through puberty and you get this big dose of testosterone as a boy, maybe it flips on that gene. All of a sudden you got this annoying little beard that you got to keep shaving. These are going to activate what's called secondary sex characteristics. This is all of the puberty effects. This is basically getting your body ready to be able to reproduce. Now, granted, as a 14-year-old boy, you're not mentally prepared to reproduce or have a kid, but your body is making it so that you can. Girls go through this a little sooner. They usually start their menstrual cycle in their puberty, maybe around 12 or so. It kind of varies. It's all based on the person. But this is all activated by the hormones, so endocrine system and reproductive system work hand in hand. Male hormone is produced by the testes, the testicles, that's the testosterone. Female is ovaries with estrogen. Remember, reproductive system is all about building sex cells, or gametes. Remember meiosis? It's almost like mitosis, but you got it split into two groups. You got meiosis 1, you got meiosis 2. I split once, then I don't replicate, and then I split again. I end up with 4 genetically different sex cells. It's just please make a terrific cookie, but you do it twice. And then also you got the big one that makes it different. Here we go, crossing over. Prophase 1. This is why all these little X's seem to have smudges of the other colors on them. So we've ended up with 4 different sperm, or 4 different eggs. Completely genetically different, because we want to blend them and have completely as random traits as possible, because diversity is survivability. So you start out with 2 sets of DNA, which is our diploid. At the end, you get to the 4 sex cells, All 4 of these are haploids. Haploid kind of sounds like the word half. They have half the chromosomes. If you're a human, you got 46 chromosomes. So by the time you get to the sperm and egg, the sperm and egg have 23 chromosomes because they want to combine with the other one. You have to have 46. Hopefully your sperm had 23 and the egg had 23 from correct meiosis. And then after that, the reproductive system's job is just to get one to the other. In plants, it was kind of hard because they're not very close to each other, so they need the bugs to take the pollen to the female plant. For humans, that's what sex is for. It's literally trying to get the sperm to the egg. All the parts of your reproductive system are to make that system work better, because it needs to have everything working together. The uterus, fallopian tubes, ovaries, testes, penis, vagina, vas deferens, cervix, endometrium, Cowper's gland. There are so many different parts to this. It's not as simple as just plopping down some sperm near some egg. There are a lot of parts that have to work together, so the reproductive system has to do this. Please don't use them to have kids yet, because if you think the words are complicated, man, the kid itself is a whole other animal.